Usually I start a video by introducing the topic that I'm going to talk about. Today I want to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show you the result of what I'm going to talk about, okay? So what you are about to listen is a MIDI file that I just added instruments. So in a way, it's a pure MIDI composition kind of thing. This is just the MIDI file with the instruments. It sounds very digital. It sounds very machine gun at parts. You know, that MIDI problem of the ta 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 ta. What I'm going to show you now is the result after orchestrating, mixing with Slate digital plugins, and then mastering. Okay. Quite different, isn't it? So today I'm going to tell you about my experience using Slate Digital All Access Pass for 1 month. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Synaptic Schism. My name is Vlad, and this is an episode of Inside the Schism where I talk about the act of creating music on a more personal level. Today I want to give you my honest review of Slate Digital's All Access Pass. Before I continue, I want to make sure that everyone understands that this is not paid, this is not advertising, there's no relationship between me or Slate Digital other than the fact that I'm their client. That's it. So I have been using Slate Digital All Access Pass for about a month now, and I've mixed 6 songs using their plugins. That's what I want to talk about. So what is... For those who don't know, what is Slate Digital's All Access Pass? It is a subscription service where you have access to plugins and other things. For instance, you got a synth. You have a thing called Slate Academy that has a bunch of cool courses that you can learn for free, and also samples and everything, all new developments from Slate. And all new courses, all new samples, and so on are free and included in the subscription. The reason why I looked at Slate Digital All Access Pass was because I was getting tired of always looking for like the good cheap solution to a problem that I was having while I was mixing. And the first thing that came to my attention was that it was a subscription service, and I do like subscription services quite a bit. And the other reason was that not only it was a subscription service, but the actual plugins that I intended to use while mixing are analog emulations, which means that they add the character of specific hardware. What did I use in this song? First, I'm going to show you what I don't use. One of the things that I don't use is it's the overloud THU. So this is a guitar effects and bass also effects plugin. You can create your own costume setups for guitar and bass, and pretty much do everything from the amps to the effects. I don't use it for now. I have tested it with a couple of like little things that I did. It's really nice, but I haven't used it that much. The synthesizer, which I have not used yet, also it seems pretty good, but I have not used it until now. Doesn't mean that I won't use it in the future. This is a mastering rack. It has a compressor and also a limiter. I don't use it. I prefer to use a different limiter and the compressor. There are other, in my opinion, better solutions than this one in the package, in the All Access Pass. Also, Kilohertz. Kilohertz is very interesting for 2 reasons. So this is the main multipass software. It means that you can add, like for instance, I have this 3-band EQ here. I would only be using this for the low end. I could use like a bit crush in the middle end. So it's nice. It allows for some things. Sometimes I use it as a multi-band compressor because I can have different levels of compression and I can adjust the range that I'm affecting and so on. Actually, you are going to see that. But Kilohertz, it has this multi-band kind of thing. But each of these plugins, and there are a bunch of them, can be used as simple plugins directly. Like for instance, the 3-band EQ, I can just use it directly here without the multipass. So not that useful when you have all of the other stuff, but for some things it can be quite useful. And last but not least, they also have a repeater plugin. This repeater plugin is very similar in a way to their Reverb plugin, but I don't use delays that much, and for that reason I rarely use this. Now, for that particular song that you heard, what did I use? Now I'm going to put the mixer again, but this is the full session. There are a bunch of tracks even underneath. For instance, violins 1 in fact are 2 different violins, but these are the main tracks that I worked on. And you can see that there's this VMR here. This is the virtual mixing rack, and each one of them has got plugins, and you can add whatever plugins you want inside. Okay. To me, this is the bulk of the good stuff that I get from the all access passes, the VMR, and then the plugins that go in here. You can see that there's a bunch of them for dynamics, for equalizers, for harmonics, and then for mastering and preamps. The whole idea is that in one plugin I can build whatever strip I want for wherever needs I have for that particular track. So all of the tracks, with the exception of the timpani, have got the VMR. All of them are very similar, so they have this preamp, and I use this Hollywood one because it's the one that has a more lush sound, which was what I was looking for. And then this virtual channel, which is set to be a Trident emulation, which gives a wider soundscape. All of them have got this, with the exception of timpani. And then in the double basses, I also added a compressor so that I would compress that low end. All of the low end from the song is coming from the timpani and the double bass. So by compressing the double bass, I was effectively compressing the very bottom of the low end in the song. There's a cute thing here. In all of the other, I have the Trident to give me that wide sound space. But for this one, I used the USA emulation. And I will use this one because I wanted, instead of the wide soundscape, I wanted the punch, and this emulation gives me more punch to the double bass. So it's small decisions like this that you can do on a track per track basis that add up to that final sound that you see. So VMR everywhere. This is Levent from Analog Obsession. This is not from Slate Digital. However, I could do something similar with VMR. I could do something like this, for instance. Since I have the low end before, I could use this plugin, which would give me a different solution, but in terms of sound, a very similar one. So I could have used this. Other than the VMRs, I use Infinity EQ. Infinity EQ is a very nice EQ plugin, which is included in the package. I absolutely love it. It does everything that I want a EQ plugin to do. Sometimes, for a matter of commodity, I use a different one, also from Slate, which is, I'll show you here, which is the Air EQ Premium. I use this EQ differently than I use Infinity EQ. Infinity EQ is more for the overall equalizing. Usually I use the Air EQ Premium when I want to shape the sound in a more of a character base. For instance, if I want more presence in the strings, or if I want very specific things, like for instance, if I want the horns to have less of a nasal sound, things like that, it's what I use the Air EQ Premium. I have not used it in this particular piece, but I have used it, for instance, to deal with the snares in a metal track. So all of them have got VMRs with the exception of timpani. Some of them have got infinity EQ. And that was it in terms of dealing with the tracks. All of this is adding harmonics, which allows for each of the tracks to sit better in the mix and allows me to, by just approaching how I was using those harmonics, to give more presence or give more punch to a track and to make those very fine decisions without big EQ cuts or things like that. So all of this then goes into three different reverbs. This plate reverb is lustrous plates, which is also included in the all access pass. It's basically a huge collection of plate reverbs. I'm using a preset called Bright Symphony. This is just for the strings, and the other two, so the room reverb, I'm actually using Spaces 2 from East West. This is not part of Slate, obviously. It's a convolution reverb that just gives that feeling of room to the whole orchestra. It just puts everything together. In the concert reverb, so this is the big hall lush reverb. I'm using Verb Suite. With a concert hall, it just gives that lush sound that kind of fills all of that space. And last but not least, all of this, including the reverb tracks, go into my mix bus. And in my mix bus, I again have a virtual mix rack. This virtual mix rack, it's got this trimmer because I needed to get the volume a little bit down. And then in this virtual mix bus, if you recall, I had virtual mix channels in the other ones with the Trident, and this one I have the virtual mix bus, which kind of sums everything together and adds even more like analog flavor to it. Last but not least, in the mix strip, I have FG Red. This is a bus compressor. There are 3 of them with the All Access Pass. I only use this one. I really love it. I have no words to describe. This compressor just glues everything together. If you give it just a little bit of compression with the auto release, just a very slight, like a 1, I think I have 1.5 or 2 here, 1.5 ratio, with the threshold just high enough to just cut like 1 dB. That's all I need, just to cut 1 dB, just really the top of it. It just glues everything together. It's, to me, this plugin is magical. I don't know how to express my admiration for this bus compressor. This mix bus, the only thing that it does, it sends to my master bus, and then on my master bus I have other stuff. Some are Slate, others are not, but here's the multipass because I wanted to compress that low end, so I've put a compressor in the low end only, nothing else is going on. Then this Subtractive EQ is again Infinity EQ. I'm just doing my cuts. I always do this. I know that this is debatable. I'm not going to discuss that here. But then I have this side EQ. Basically, I am removing low end information from the sides and just focusing in the center. That's what I'm doing here. And then the tape machines, another plugin that it's almost as magical as FG Red. Putting this plugin on or off, the whole sound just grows. The way that I do this is I will add harmonics, so I will increase the input, and if you notice, the output goes down. So I will increase the input until I feel that the sound is getting compressed. Because adding harmonics does have a compression effect on the whole sound, so I just increase that input. As soon as I start losing the feeling of those hits, those orchestral hits coming in, I lower it a bit until I regain those impacts and then have it again, fully controlled here, and it's just brilliant. The other two are not from Slate Digital, so I'm not going to discuss them now. However, because I did this to showcase Slate Digital, I will do separate videos for the orchestration, the mixing, and the mastering process that led me here. I will recreate the whole process, and I will do everything live, let's say, with the full videos explaining everything that led me to that result. Before finishing and give you my final review on my experience during this past month, I want to show you a spreadsheet that I did with all of the plugins that are included. I created this out of necessity because there's so much stuff in there that it's actually kind of difficult to cope with all of that. Each of the plugins has got its own flavor. It works better on some things, worse in others. So in the first couple of days of working with the All Access Pass, I created this spreadsheet. I will leave a link to the spreadsheet in the description. For the final words, okay. So what has changed since I started using this service? Well, the first thing that changed was, and this was quite obvious, was that I mix a lot faster. I started to create new ways of dealing with my mixes and new ways to approach each of the sounds. The sounds behave a lot better because they are fuller, they are richer, they are easier to EQ. There's a world of difference between using plugins like these and approaching it from a pure digital perspective. So to me, that was the big change. However, the biggest impact in terms of my workflow is that I don't have to worry about looking for that plugin that I don't have. It's just there. I can just find a solution somewhere in the world of plugins that this Surface offers. If you are looking for an all-round solution for mixing, I would definitely recommend using the All Access Pass. It changed the way that I mix for the better, and I'm really happy with the service. I hope that this video helped, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye bye.